Okay. All right. So he's gotten at this point, he really, really assaulted you and went after your 2-year-old son. And he ends up getting arrested and you're at the hospital and but you've recovered from all of that. Now, was this the final breaking point for the marriage? Did you never went back, I hope?
No.
Okay.
No. This was the turning point.
Okay. So tell me about what turning point. Tell me about where this took you. Where did this take you from that moment on, that turning point? Where did it take you from there?
Closer to God, really. It taught me relationship when it came to God. Because you can hear about things, but if you don't have a relationship with God, the experience is kind of different. So it took me to a place where I was on my own. I ended up moving back in with my parents, but I was on my own. It was me and my son. We were in a basement. All of our stuff was in one room. And so I really had to rely on God. It did put me in a headspace for a little while. I'm not just gonna be like, oh yeah, I popped out of it and I was fine, because I wasn't. But it was a lot. I had to heal. Then it was a mind thing again, because I couldn't really hold my son. My mom had to help me pick him up. My shoulder was dislocated. So this shoulder was up and I literally, like, this shoulder was drooped down until it was healed enough for them to pop it back. And so I had to heal. I bodily had to heal.
Do you know that little thing, that little saying that we used to say as kids, sticks and stones may break my bones? There is no
not true. It's not true.
that children are, well, I don't say it to my children, because I always emphasize that words are so painful. Bruises heal, but words, they linger. And so, while your body physically was healing, the mind, because Keyaira, this is something that comes to my mind, is that it's not just this marriage. Because when someone breaks you down to the point that you don't even know why you exist anymore.
Yeah.
That that is the biggest part of the journey of healing, is your mind, your mental health, your spiritual health, understanding, becoming who God created you to be, and realizing that all these things that happened to you that started at such a young age, that was just the enemy. It's like you're one of those persons that probably when you were born, your mom will get a kick out of this. Probably when you were born, the devil's there saying, the enemy's there saying, get her.
Yeah.
Get her.
Yeah.
She's going to get her. We don't need her. We don't want her.
Yeah.
To be who she's supposed to be.
Yeah. It's been a lot. Even when I was younger, I hit my head on the tub. When I was younger, I flipped through glass windows. It's been a fight. And
a lot of stuff.
Yes, even 17, 18, I got out of high school or whatever, and I had got on drugs real bad. I didn't look anything like this. Like, my color was gone. I was boned. You could literally see my bones. I was on stuff I didn't even know. I was just on it.
What year did you graduate?
21, 21, something like that. I think I want to say 2021.
Well, this is 2022.
Not 2021. Sorry. Was it 01?
Okay.
I want to say it was 0. Was it 0? No. 12.
2012. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
12.
I knew you then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I used to go to
Yeah.
your facility. Yeah, I came with my mom.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, I had no idea this was going on. I had no
Mm-hmm.
idea. You were
Mm-hmm.
quiet, very reserved.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to hear about the healing journey, and God has you on such a tremendous path now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to just take away from anything, but tell us about the healing part, and how God has used all this. I mean, this is telling your story, and being transparent about so many things is so huge, because I don't think, people think, oh, they were, she was in an abusive relationship. Well, you don't know the extent of that abuse. It didn't just punch her once.
Right.
It didn't just happen once or twice. This was a lifestyle, a daily lifestyle that you were in. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's like these things, there's big, huge blow ups and stuff. But like you said, the brain games are the biggest challenge, and they're the hardest thing to escape.
Mm-hmm.
The brain
Yeah.
games are the hardest to escape, because it's
Yeah.
like they get in there, and you have to choose to shut the lies off and not believe the lies. But when you've experienced everything that you experienced from a small child, age of 4, when
Mm-hmm.
you're 4 years old, all the way up, and then you go from, you didn't know your worth, and you went into a relationship based on what you thought was your worth,
Mm-hmm.
because that was what was shown to you by a man
Mm-hmm.
growing up.
Yep.
That was your worth. And so, I mean, that's who, I mean, and the thing about it is, Keyaira, is I know that there are so many people out there. We're all like this, regardless of what's going on in our life. There are so many people out there who think no one will believe me,
Yep.
because no one could understand where I am, what I've been through. And that's another tool of the enemy that makes us feel people isolated
Mm-hmm.
and rejected, and you don't have a place. There's something wrong with you because of this is what you experienced. Now, I've experienced a couple of situations in my life where they were abusive, but nothing in my family. I mean, I'm very blessed in that area. So, but later in life, and some things, but um, I know that we're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
The willingness to be so transparent is so huge, and to not be afraid to talk about the pain,
Yeah.
all that you've gone through is so huge. And I think I'm excited to hear where we're going next, because um, I know that God's doing something really big with all of this. And I want
Mm-hmm.
to tell us about that healing process and what happened. I know you've remarried and all that. That smile. You never thought you'd have, right?
Right.
Yeah.
um, so it actually started one day I was praying and the Lord told me that things were getting ready to turn around. And so, I'm like, okay, Lord. And I was in the basement at my mom's. And so he actually gave me instruction. Because a lot of people is like, oh, things are turning around, but God's going to give you something to do in order to see those things happen. Because faith without works is dead. So I could believe in God, but I had to do some stuff too. And so I was applying for all these apartments, trying to get out, all this stuff. And so I was applying for this apartment. I got denied. And I went through housing and I got denied. And I was praying one day and the Lord said, it's going to turn around. And I was like, okay. So he told me specifically, every time I tell you to shift, I want you to move something in the room. And I was like, okay. And so that's what I did. And I did it for a couple of months, I would say. Every time he told me, I would move something in the room. I would just move something. And so one day, he gave me specific instructions. I had something to do, and I went out, and he said, go here first, go here first, go here first. So I'm literally just listening to the voice of the Lord. And I had my son, and he said, I have a best friend, and he said, take him to your best friend's house and ask her if she can keep him. And I was like, but I don't need her to. Like, I'm trying to think, well, okay, Lord, what are you doing? Because I don't need her to keep him. So I called her anyway, and I asked if she lives right behind housing. And so I called her. I was out in her parking lot, and she said, yeah. So I took him in there. I got back in the car, and as soon as I got back in the car, housing called me. And and they were like, we need you to call the apartments. Mm-hmm. And there was a specific apartment I applied for, but I got denied. They told me no. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay. So I didn't call. And so the apartment actually called me, and they were like, we just want to call you and let you know that your unit's ready. Mm-hmm. And I was like, unit? What unit? I was like, wait a minute, wait. What unit? I said, I got denied from you guys. What are you talking about? And they were like, well, she was like, oh, we're showing that this is your name. She said, aren't you? Yeah. And at the time I was Alan. So I said, yeah. And she named everything off to me. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, well, your unit's ready. She said, when can you be by? She said, all you have to do is go to housing and complete some stuff and then come by and meet with me, get your keys and everything else. So mind you, I'm at my best friend's house that's right behind housing. So I'm like, like God set everything up. So I go over to housing, and they're like, okay, well, we're going to have to talk about your rent, what you'll owe, and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, now I don't have a job. I don't have anything. And so I'm like, oh, here we go. What are we going to do? And so I get the statements, everything I need, turn it in. So she hands me a piece of paper that tells me what I pay every month. I look down, the balance was 0. And I just looked, and I was like, wait. I said, so I'm going into this apartment and I'm not paying anything? And she was like, no, we'll cover everything. And she was like, I know this may be hard because you're not working, but you're going to need the deposit. And I was like, okay. And at this point, I'm thinking, God, if you give me a unit that I was denied for, you put me in that unit for nothing, you can come out with a deposit. I was like, that's nothing. You can come out with a deposit. So, the Lord tells me, go back, get your son. So I go back, I get my son, I go back to the house, and my mom is like, you have mail here. And I was like, okay. She said it's from Walter State, because I used to go to Walter State, and I have not been to Walter State in years at this point. So I'm like, what they want? I'm thinking, oh Lord, I owe them money. I'm trying to get money and I'm owing money. So I open it, and they give me a reimbursement check for $600 from years ago. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this, and I'm just bawling, and my mom's like, what's wrong? My mom's like, what's wrong with you? And so I tell her everything that's just happened to me in the last hour and a half. And She's crying, I'm crying. It's just crazy. And so I go back, I give them the deposit, they give me the keys. And so I remember telling God, before all of this happened, I said, okay, I want an apartment. I don't want any carpet. I want the hardwood floors. This is what I want. I want different walls. I want this. I want that. And I just believe God that way, and I still do. And of course now it's on a different level, but I still do. And so when I came and they were showing me the apartment, the lady that was over it at the time, she was like, well, it took us so long because we did your apartment as an example apartment of
It
what
was
we
a
were going to
model.
do. Yeah,
The
she said
model.
as an example apartment to what we were going to do to the other apartments, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay. And so she's like, yeah, she said we put in hardwood floors, we repainted the walls, and I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm just like, wow. So I walk in here, I'm looking, and everything I wanted is
It's
in
right
this
there.
building. And I was like, whoa. So we move in, and that's where the healing started taking place. I got in here, and being alone was a little different. I began, and because, my ex-husband was still out there, I was a little fearful. Those are the things that people don't talk about. When you're healing, it doesn't just, you're healed, you know. And there was nights or days that I was scared to go out and pump my gas alone. I didn't know where he was. I didn't know what was going to happen. I would go out, but then I would be home at a certain time because I didn't like walking at night. I didn't know who he knew. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if he was going to come for me. I would sleep with I would lock the door, but then I would put other things up against the door. I would sleep in my room, and I would put my son in my bed, and then I would sleep with stuff up against my door just because I wanted to hear if something was to happen, if we had to move, if we had to do anything. So it was a lot. I kept going to church. God delivered me from all of that, the fear, all of that. And then I had got content. That had went for a long, long time. I had got okay with being by myself. I don't want to get remarried. I'm good. I was like, my husband's like, you're young, you're gonna get married, you're gonna want to get married. I'm like, no, I don't. I'm fine. And so I really lived by that. My husband now, he'll tell you, and even my mom, she'll tell you, we had to pray that that girl would give this man a chance.
Oh.
Because, like, my mom, she's like, oh my Lord, like, she ended up feeling more sorry for him than she did for me. And she's like, give him a chance, it's okay. But he pursued, he stayed. Even some things with him, he was like,
So awesome.
he's like, I had told the Lord one day, you know what, Lord, I'm gone. It's like, she don't want me. Like, it's okay, And he said that the Lord was telling him, no, just wait, just wait it out. And so he said, I waited it out. He said, finally, you came around, and it hasn't even been a year yet, but it'll be a year in April, on the 10th. So very, very, it's went quick. It's went by really quick. But
He doesn't, our time, I just had a friend who shared with me last night that she had like a 2-year waiting list for some things that she saw for her family's future. She's like, we're going to spend these next 2 years doing this so that we can do this. And then night before last or something like that, she got a phone call and boom, it was dropped right in her lap.
Oh, wow.
No waiting, so it's just, God's timing is so beyond anything we can comprehend.
Yeah.
He can do amazing things. So what is it? Okay, so you're married, you're almost married a year, and you all are I see things and it's beautiful. Um, Tell me what God is inspiring you to do right now with your life and this journey that your journey thus far.
Right now, I have two pages on Facebook. So one of them is Just Alex Ministries, which reaches out as far as domestic violence. So I'm a domestic violence advocate. So I talk, I do seminars, letting them know the safety, the signs, that sort of thing. I get on there, I post, I will give them tips and let them know, how to help someone that may be in that, how to tell the signs when you're in the relationship and how to tell those signs when you're outside of that, the ones that's looking in, how you know without them telling you. Right. And then I also have Glamorous Inspiration, where I'm on there just giving success stories, feedbacks, encouragements, kind of telling my story, bits and pieces. Sometimes I'll go on there, do lives, tell some things. I'll go on there, encourage people. So that's what I'm doing as far as that part. Right now, I am a youth president at my church. So I am going forth with that, reaching out to the youth. I love the youth. Oh my gosh, I love young people so much. So I reach out with them. And right now I'm actually working on getting my personal training license. And I want to actually find a way to give back in that as well. And be able to let people know that it starts here first. I had to learn to love me and know that I'm enough before I could send that out to anybody else. So I had to heal here first. And fitness actually helped me heal. So I want to give that back to someone else that maybe, well, I'm this and I don't like the way I look, or I don't like this, or I don't like that. And even though it helped me with looks per se, it also helped with my confidence. It helped with my endurance. Yeah, it helped with my strength, not only physically but mentally. And so that's kind of what I'm doing right now. Limiting what I say really, but
it is proven, scientifically proven that exercise is, I mean, it is like the number one medicine for depression, anxiety, just, stress, just all kinds of mental health issues and different things like that. My dog is they're making I've got another one over here and I'm so glad she hasn't barked. But anyway, um, they but I had actually in the gym where you used to come and train with, there was a lady who was here filling in. Her husband was a doctor, and he was here filling in for a doctor who was on medical leave. And there were doctors around the country that were coming in taking shifts. And she was here from Texas, and she was his wife, and this doctor's wife. And so she was here visiting, and she shared with me, she was a psychologist, and she said that they actually did studies where they gave placebos, they gave actual medication, and then they used fitness. And without fail, every person who was being treated for depression that went through this trial, this program, whatever, I've loss of words there. The ones that took no medicine and only exercised, their mental health and well-being better than any of the others. So, I mean, it's one of my driving forces. I can't tell you how many people, both men and women, mostly women, that I have seen walk into the gym, and when you get to know them and you hear their story, there's so much going on. And, and it's like, and for me, it's like the only first thing I want to do. So I understand your passion. It did the same thing for me. And it's like you it's, you know, that when you start feeling stronger, that it just, it affects you all over, mentally, spiritually, your confidence, you know, physically, you're just, it's overwhelming, because you know, but our mind, body, and our spirit, they're all connected. You can't treat one without treating the other.
Right. That's
And
true.
so, yeah, and so it's a domino effect. You know, if I bring the bad stuff, you know,
Yeah.
bring in the good stuff and it goes. And so
hmm
that's what's awesome about it. So now, is Just Alex Ministries, is that a nonprofit that you set up, or is it just something that you have that you do on your own, or?
It's something I do on my own. I'm wanting to make it a nonprofit that we set up. So we're actually kind of moving in that direction right now. Um, so one of the things that I have learned as far as the healing process is to take one thing at a time, so I don't like overwhelm myself. So right now I'm just kind of moving one thing at a time. So I do look into getting that done soon, but because I mean, you're definitely right as far as mentally and physically, you know, physical things being compared or the same. I look at them as the same, because if I'm not at a place mentally where I'm like, okay, I want to do this, and then I come and I back that up with physical, then one of them is going to fall short every time. And so, being one that was on anxiety medicine and medicine just to help me sleep, and I was on those things and I didn't like them. They made me more miserable than they did help, you know. So fitness was one of the things that I really got into, and a lot of people use it for comparison or competition, but I use it just to survive sometimes, you know. So you know, yeah.
God didn't make our bodies to just sit still. And, you know, it's like it's important. It's so important, our physical health and how we take care of our bodies, what we put in here and what we put in in, you know, putting in exercise and putting in that time, um, you know, just the improvements to your health alone. When you're a believer and you've accepted Christ, you know, this always comes up, it seems like, and I guess it's a point that God wants to drive home, that we're the walking, talking hands and feet of Jesus. And, you know, we don't know who is going to need the Jesus that's in us from one moment to the next. And so it's like, in order to be able to do his work, we have to be physically strong, mentally strong, spiritually strong. And I don't say that in any particular order, because I think that typically at the top of the list, you get your mind right, you going in the right direction, and knowing, making those right choices to honor God first and put God first in your life, and to seek him for all things, as you clearly do. You're not afraid to ask. I actually,
no.
I was like, God, you tell us we have not because we ask not. I was praying for someone and has an illness that really hits close to home for me. I don't get emotional. So, but it just really hits close to home to me. And, you know, and it's like, man, you know, just, I'm asking, you know. And so, but listen, I have so enjoyed this. And I'm so glad to see that smile on your face. And, you know, it's like, it was an eye opener for me. That's why I asked you how, when you said up until you graduated high school or whatever, it's like, well, when did you graduate high school? Because I knew you then. And I was like, how did I not pick up on that? But I didn't. No. I didn't. You weren't in a lot, though. Your mom came in more. Sometimes you came in by yourself. And then I remember there was a long gap where you were MIA.
Yeah.
Now I know what we should go with. So, Okay. Well, listen, why don't we have a prayer real quick before we go? Do you want to pray? Let God lead you to pray over the people.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Lord, we thank you for this time. We thank you that you have given us our lives not to hold to ourselves, but to share with others. We thank you for those that will hear this and come in contact with this and understand that there is more to life than what they've been through. And God, we thank you. I ask that you bestow a blessing upon Miss Sharon for even being humble enough to reach out to me. And God, I thank you for everything that you're doing in our lives. And God, touch those that are around us, touch those that may see this and want to know you in a deeper way. And God, we thank you and we bless you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right, young lady.